Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Angelo glided through the aquamarine waters, his body a seamless extension of the fluid world, each movement a well-rehearsed dance. But amidst the graceful rhythm, a lingering dissonance persisted, an unsettling sensation that had shadowed him throughout his athletic journey. As he emerged from the pool's embrace, droplets cascading down his physique, he couldn't shake the discomfort of his skin, ill-fitted in the racing brief that had promised speed but failed to deliver comfort. The navy fabric, despite its sleek design, bunched awkwardly, a constant reminder of a mismatch that not even a myriad of brands and sizes could rectify. "Remarkable pacing, Angelo!" Coach Martinez's voice echoed across the deck, cutting through the post-workout haze. "But that hesitation at the turns is still there. We've got work to do if you aim to qualify in the next tournament." A momentary pause, a sharp intake of breath, and Angelo responded, a quiet determination in his voice. "I know. I can do better. I'll focus on it tomorrow." The locker room echoed with boisterous conversation as his teammates changed. Angelo waited for a shower to free up, keeping his towel secured tightly. Even after years on the team, he'd never grown comfortable with the casual nudity of locker rooms. His teammates attributed it to his reserved nature, but it was something deeper he couldn't articulate. At home that evening, Angelo sat at his desk, absent-mindedly scrolling through competitive swimming gear. The men's section offered the same variations of briefs and jammers he'd tried countless times. His cursor hovered over the tab for women's swimwear for several moments before he finally clicked. The designs were different. More coverage, streamlined cuts, sophisticated compression technology. One particular suit caught his eye, a professional racing swimsuit in silver and black, with full leg coverage and a modest neckline. The description highlighted its compression features designed to reduce drag and improve hydrodynamics. "This is ridiculous," he muttered to himself, even as he selected his size, converted from men's measurements. His finger hovered over the purchase button for several long moments before he decisively clicked, immediately closing the laptop as if to hide the evidence from himself. The package arrived 3 days later. Angelo's hands trembled slightly as he carried it to his bedroom, double-checking that his roommate wasn't home. The packaging was discreet, but his heart raced nonetheless as he opened it. The material felt different than his men's suits, smoother, more substantial. Angelo held the silver and black swimsuit up to the light, studying its construction. The reinforced panels promised compression in all the right places to streamline movement through water. He hesitated, then quickly changed into it before he could talk himself out of the experiment. The suit gripped his body firmly but comfortably, compressing his form into a smoother silhouette. Angelo turned to face the mirror and froze. Something about the reflection looking back at him made sense in a way nothing had before. The suit's compression concealed the more masculine aspects of his physique while accentuating a grace he'd always tried to hide. His blonde hair, grown slightly longer than most of his teammates, framed his face in a way that completed the transformation. "Oh," he whispered, a single syllable containing years of unspoken questions. The following morning, Angelo arrived at the pool an hour before the scheduled team practice, having arranged for private training time. The silver and black suit was hidden beneath his warm-up clothes, a secret he wasn't ready to share. The empty pool gleamed under the early morning lights as he emerged from the locker room. Taking a deep breath, Angelo removed his warm-up pants and jacket, revealing the women's swimsuit underneath. The cool air raised goosebumps on his skin as he approached the starting block. He dove in, and the difference was immediate. The water moved differently around him, or perhaps he moved differently through the water. The compression of the suit kept his body aligned, removing the distractions of ill-fitting fabric that had always plagued him. Each stroke felt more powerful, more precise. When he completed his first set of laps and checked the stopwatch, Angelo stared in disbelief. He'd shaved nearly 2 seconds off his personal best time.
"That can't be right,"
he muttered, resetting the watch. He completed another set, focusing on maintaining perfect form. The result was the same, another personal best. Over the next week, Angelo continued his private morning sessions, each day growing more comfortable in the silver and black suit that was rapidly becoming a second skin. His blonde hair, which he'd stopped cutting, now reached just below his ears, often tucked behind them as he swam. During team practices, he reverted to his men's briefs, but his times had inexplicably plateaued compared to his private sessions. Coach Martinez noticed.
"Something's off with your form this week, Angelo,"
the coach commented after a particularly frustrating practice.
"You were making real progress, but now you seem restricted somehow." "I've been trying some different techniques,"
Angelo replied vaguely.
"Well, whatever you're doing in those early morning sessions is working. Your individual times are improving, just not seeing it carry over to team practice."
Angelo froze.
"You know about the morning sessions?"
Coach Martinez laughed. "I'm the one who approves all pool time requests. I've been curious what you've been working on solo." The realization that his secret might not be entirely secret sent a wave of panic through Angelo.
"It's just experimentation with drag reduction techniques." "Interesting approach," the coach said. "Whatever works. But remember, qualifying meets are in 3 weeks. We need consistency."
That night, Angelo lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The silver and black suit hung in his bathroom, hidden behind towels. The freedom he felt wearing it couldn't be denied, nor could the dramatic improvement in his performance. Something had clicked into place that went beyond mere equipment adjustment. After another week of maintaining the charade, excelling in private, struggling comparatively in team practice, Angelo made a decision. He couldn't continue this double life if he wanted to reach his potential as a swimmer. The next morning, he arrived at his private session to find Coach Martinez waiting on the pool deck.
"Hope you don't mind,"
the coach said.
"Thought I'd observe what's working so well for you in these sessions."
Angelo clutched his bag tighter, the silver and black suit inside. This was the moment of truth. Turn back or move forward. "Actually, Coach, there's something I need to explain." In the locker room, Angelo changed into the women's swimsuit with shaking hands. When he emerged onto the pool deck, Coach Martinez's expression shifted from confusion to understanding.
"So this is your secret weapon,"
Martinez said, gesturing to the suit.
"It fits better,"
Angelo said quietly.
"The compression works with my body type, and my times prove it."
Coach Martinez studied him thoughtfully.
"The results speak for themselves, but you know there are regulations about competition swimwear."
"I know," Angelo replied. "That's why I've been keeping it private, but I can't keep switching back and forth. It's affecting my performance."
"It's more than just the suit, isn't it?"
Martinez asked, gently. Angelo looked down at the silver and black fabric hugging his body, at the way his growing blonde hair fell around his face, and finally spoke the truth he'd been avoiding.
"Yes, it's more than the suit."
The conversation that followed was difficult but necessary. Coach Martinez listened as Angelo explained feelings he'd barely acknowledged to himself, how the women's suit had been a catalyst for recognizing his true identity.
So,
Martinez said finally,
should I be using a different name?
The question caught Angelo off guard. I haven't really thought about... But he had. Late at night, in quiet moments, a name had been forming in his mind.
Isabella,
he said finally.
I think I'd like to be called Isabella.
Coach Martinez nodded.
All right, Isabella. Let's see what you can do.
The transition wasn't seamless. There were administrative hurdles, team meetings, and difficult conversations. Some teammates struggled with the change. Others offered surprising support. Isabella continued to train in her silver and black suit, her blonde hair growing longer each month as she embraced her identity both in and out of the pool. 6 months later, Isabella stood on the starting block at her first women's qualifying meet. Her silver and black suit had been joined by others in her wardrobe, but this one remained her favorite, a talisman of her transformation. Her blonde hair, now reaching her shoulders, was tucked neatly under her swim cap.
Lane 4, Isabella Moretti,
the announcer called. She adjusted her goggles, took a deep breath, and as the starter's signal sounded, dove into the water. Not just toward the other end of the pool, but toward her future, authentically herself at last. The water welcomed her like an old friend, different now that she moved through it as her true self. Each stroke felt powerful, purposeful, perfect. The compression of her silver and black suit kept her form streamlined as she cut through the water with precision that had eluded her before. At the turn, Isabella executed the flip with a grace that surprised even her. Coach Martinez had been right. The hesitation was gone. There was nothing holding her back anymore. When her hand touched the wall at the finish, Isabella surfaced to see the time clock and froze in disbelief. Not only had she won her heat, but she'd qualified for nationals with a time that placed her among the top competitors in her division. Climbing out of the pool, she was met by Coach Martinez's broad smile.
That's what happens when you swim as yourself,
the coach said, handing her a towel. The journey to nationals was intense. Isabella trained harder than ever, refining her technique while continuing her physical transition. Her teammates had adjusted to her presence in the women's locker room, many of them becoming fierce advocates when questions arose. "Your shoulders have changed," her teammate Denise remarked one day as they stretched before practice. "The hormone therapy is really making a difference." Isabella nodded, noticing how her silver and black suit fit differently now, still providing the compression she needed, but accommodating her evolving physique. "The doctor says the muscle redistribution will continue for another year or so." "Well, it's working for your stroke. That last relay split was incredible." The national championship arrived with sweltering summer heat. The air-conditioned aquatic center buzzed with energy as competitors from across the country prepared for their events. Isabella stood among them, no longer feeling like an outsider. Her blonde hair, now past her shoulders and styled in a practical ponytail, caught the light as she walked onto the pool deck for her preliminary heat. The announcer called her name, Isabella Moretti, representing Pacific Coast Swimming, and it still gave her a thrill to hear it. The preliminaries went well, securing her a place in the finals the following day. That evening, as she reviewed race footage with Coach Martinez in the hotel lobby, a shadow fell across their table.
"Isabella Moretti?"
She looked up to see a woman in her 40s, professionally dressed with a media credential around her neck. "I'm Vanessa Chan from Swimming World magazine. I've been following your qualifying times. Very impressive breakthrough this season. Thank you, Isabella replied, shaking the outstretched hand. I'd love to do a feature on you for our next issue. Your journey is remarkable. Isabella exchanged glances with Coach Martinez. Media interest was inevitable given her rapid rise in rankings, but she'd been avoiding interviews, unsure how much of her personal story she wanted to share. I'd need to know the angle, she said carefully. The athletic angle, primarily, Vanessa assured her. Your technique has evolved dramatically over the past year, but yes, I would want to acknowledge your transition as part of your athletic journey, if you're comfortable with that. Isabella considered the request. Perhaps her story could help others like her, who felt caught between worlds. I'll do it, she decided. After finals tomorrow. The finals day dawned bright and tense. Isabella went through her warm-up routine methodically, visualizing each stage of her race. The silver and black suit, now well-worn, but still her talisman, hugged her body comfortingly as she approached the starting block. Looking across the pool, she recognized several Olympic trial qualifiers among her competitors. A year ago, she would have been intimidated. Today, she felt ready. The starter's signal sounded, and Isabella dove into a perfect streamline. The first 50 meters were about establishing rhythm, and she emerged from her underwater dolphin kicks in third position. By the turn, she had moved into second, executing the flip with precision. The final 25 meters were a battle of will. Isabella's lungs burned as she pushed beyond what she'd thought possible, her arms slicing through the water with determination that came from years of fighting to become herself. Her hand hit the wall, and she surfaced, gasping, immediately looking toward the time board. Second place, and a time that qualified her for Olympic trials. Coach Martinez engulfed her in a hug as she climbed out of the pool. You did it! Olympic trials! The realization sank in slowly as she stood on the metal podium, silver metal gleaming against her black and silver suit. This moment of athletic achievement was intertwined with her personal journey, each impossible without the other. The interview with Vanessa took place the following morning. They sat in a quiet corner of the hotel restaurant, Isabella's silver medal resting on the table between them. Let's start with yesterday's race, Vanessa began. That final push in the last 25 meters was extraordinary. Where did that come from? Isabella considered the question. I think it came from knowing exactly who I am and what I'm capable of. For years, I was swimming with a fundamental disconnect between mind and body. Now, there's an alignment that translates to power in the water. You've been open about your transition coinciding with your competitive breakthrough. How much of your improved performance do you attribute to finding your authentic self? All of it, Isabella answered without hesitation. The technical aspects, stroke refinement, turn execution, those came after I addressed the core issue. Swimming as my true self removed the mental barriers that were holding me back. Let's talk about that first women's swimsuit. The silver and black one you're still wearing. What made you try it? Isabella ran her fingers along the familiar fabric of her suit sleeve. It was curiosity at first. I'd always felt uncomfortable in men's swimwear, and I wondered if a different cut might work better with my body type. The moment I put it on, something clicked. The compression, the coverage, it felt right in a way nothing had before. And that led to your personal realization? It was a catalyst. Isabella nodded, her blonde ponytail bobbing with the movement. The improvement in my performance was immediate and dramatic. That forced me to ask why, which led to bigger questions about identity that I'd been avoiding. The article was published 3 weeks later, featuring a photograph of Isabella midstroke, her silver and black suit gleaming through crystal-clear water, blonde hair streaming behind her as she powered through her race. The headline read, "Identity and Performance, Isabella Moretti's Journey to the Olympic Trials." The story generated more attention than she'd anticipated. Interview requests poured in, and her social media following exploded overnight. What surprised her most were the messages from young swimmers across the country who saw themselves in her journey. "Your story helped me understand why I've never felt comfortable in the pool," one message read. "I'm talking to my parents about my identity now." As Olympic trials approached, Isabella maintained her focus despite the increased attention. Her training intensified, and Coach Martinez worked with her to refine the smallest details of her technique. "Your start needs to be explosive," Martinez instructed during one session. "You're giving up precious tenths in the first 15 meters." Isabella nodded, adjusting her starting position on the block. Her silver and black suit, now showing signs of wear from countless training sessions, had been supplemented by identical backup suits. But she saved the original for important competitions, a reminder of where she'd begun. The Olympic trials venue was magnificent, a state-of-the-art aquatic center filled with the country's elite swimmers. Isabella checked in for her event, receiving her lane assignment and competitor badge. As she warmed up, she noticed the sidelong glances from some of the other swimmers. Her story was well known in swimming circles by now, and while most were supportive, there were always those who questioned her right to compete in women's events. One swimmer in particular, Moira Henderson, a gold medal favorite, made her disapproval evident. As they passed each other between warm-up lanes, Moira deliberately bumped Isabella's shoulder. "Sorry," Moira said, not sounding sorry at all. "Didn't see you there." Isabella let it roll off her back. She wasn't here to change minds. She was here to swim. In the call room before the preliminary heat, the tension was palpable. The swimmers sat in silence, each wrapped in their pre-race mental preparations. Isabella closed her eyes, visualizing the perfect race from start to finish. When they were called to the pool, she emerged to a mixed reaction from the crowd. Some cheers, some uncomfortable silence. Adjusting her goggles one final time, Isabella took her place on the starting block, the familiar tension of her silver and black suit grounding her in the moment. The race was a blur of adrenaline and muscle memory. Isabella touched the wall in third place, easily qualifying for the semifinals. As she climbed out of the pool, a small group of young fans called her name, holding a banner that read, "Swim Your Truth." The sight brought an unexpected lump to her throat. This journey had never been just about medals or times. It was about creating space for authenticity in a world of rigid categories. The semifinals the next day brought Isabella face-to-face with Moira again. As they were introduced in neighboring lanes, Moira pointedly looked away during Isabella's introduction. The crowd, picking up on the tension, grew uncomfortably quiet. When the starter's signal sounded, Isabella channeled that tension into her dive, executing the most powerful start of her career. She surfaced ahead of the pack, maintaining her lead through the first 50 meters. At the turn, she could sense Moira gaining on her right side. The final lap became a duel between them, stroke for stroke, neither giving an inch. They hit the wall almost simultaneously, and Isabella looked up at the board to see she'd been out-touched by 0.02 of a second. Still, second place meant advancement to the finals. As they exited the pool, Moira finally met Isabella's eyes.
"Good race,"
Moira said stiffly. "You too," Isabella replied. It wasn't friendship, but it was acknowledgement, a start. The night before finals, Isabella couldn't sleep. She stood at the hotel window, looking out at the city lights below. Coach Martinez had warned her about the danger of overthinking at this stage.
You've done the work, the coach had said. Now trust your body to know what to do.
Her phone chimed with a text message. It was from her younger sister, with whom she'd had a complicated relationship since her transition. We're all watching tomorrow. So proud of you, Izzy. The simple message broke through the tension. This was bigger than a race. It was about being seen, truly seen, for who she was. The morning of finals, Isabella prepared methodically. She braided her blonde hair tightly against her head before putting on her swim cap, a ritual she'd developed over the past year. Her original silver and black suit, saved for this moment, fit perfectly despite the hundreds of hours it had spent in chlorinated water.
Ready?
Coach Martinez asked as they headed toward the call room. Isabella nodded. Ready. The finals atmosphere was electric. The stands were packed, cameras positioned to capture every moment for the broadcast. As the finalists were introduced, Isabella heard her name announced to a wave of applause mixed with a few scattered boos. 8 women took their positions on the starting blocks. The crowd fell silent. The starter called them to their marks. In that suspended moment before the signal, Isabella's mind cleared completely. All the doubts, all the struggles of the past year faded away. There was only this moment, this opportunity, this chance to prove what was possible. The signal sounded. 8 bodies launched into perfect arcs above the water. Isabella's dive was flawless, her underwater phase powerful. She surfaced in second position behind Moira, finding her rhythm immediately. The first 50 meters passed in a blur of controlled power, her silver and black suit cutting through the water with minimal resistance. At the turn, she executed the perfect flip, driving off the wall with explosive force. She pulled even with Moira at 75 meters, the two of them a full body length ahead of the field. The final 25 meters became a test of will. Isabella's muscles screamed for oxygen, but she maintained her stroke rate, feeling a connection with the water that had eluded her for most of her life. In the final 5 meters, she gave everything she had left, her hand stretching for the wall as Moira did the same beside her. The touch, the surge upward for air, the immediate turn toward the time board. First place, by 1/100th of a second. Olympic team qualification secured. The realization hit in waves. Isabella had won. She was going to the Olympics. The journey that had begun with a simple silver and black swimsuit had led her here, to the pinnacle of her sport. As she climbed out of the pool, reporters crowded the edge, cameras flashing. Coach Martinez enveloped her in a hug, both of them too overcome for words. When she finally made it to the medal podium, Isabella stood tall, her blonde hair now freed from its braid and falling dampened around her shoulders, her silver and black suit still dripping from her victory lap. The gold medal was placed around her neck as the crowd cheered. In that moment, looking out at the thousands of faces, Isabella realized that her journey had never really been about proving anything to others. It had been about finding harmony between her internal identity and external expression, a harmony that had unlocked not just personal peace, but athletic excellence. As she stepped down from the podium, Moira approached her, silver medal gleaming. "Congratulations," Moira said, extending her hand. "You swam a perfect race." "Thank you," Isabella replied, shaking the offered hand. "See you on the Olympic team?" A hint of a smile crossed Moira's face. "Looks like it." The post-race interview was broadcast nationally. The reporter, microphone in hand, asked the question everyone was waiting for. Isabella, what does this victory mean to you, considering your unique journey to this point? Isabella, still catching her breath, looked directly into the camera. This victory isn't just mine. It belongs to anyone who's ever felt they had to choose between their authentic self and their dreams. You don't have to choose. There's room for both. Later, in the quiet of her hotel room, Isabella carefully hung up her silver and black suit to dry. The fabric showed signs of wear now, tiny stress points where the chlorine had begun to break down the material despite her careful maintenance. She traced her fingers along its seams, remembering that first morning when she'd tried it on, the revelation that had changed everything. It had been a catalyst, a beginning. Her phone buzzed with congratulatory messages, from family who had gradually come to accept her, from new friends made along this journey, from young swimmers inspired by her story. One message stood out, from a number she didn't recognize. Watching you win today made me brave enough to tell my parents who I really am. Thank you. Isabella smiled, understanding that her victory reached far beyond the pool. As she prepared for bed, she glanced at her gold medal resting on the nightstand beside the quiet, worn silver and black suit that had started it all. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, Olympic training, increased scrutiny, higher expectations. But for tonight, she would rest, secure in the knowledge that she had found her place in the world, both in and out of the water. In the quiet darkness, Isabella Moretti closed her eyes, no longer fighting against the current, but moving with it, toward the future, toward the Olympics, toward all that awaited her as she continued to swim as her authentic self. Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!